Hello, rich ones. Welcome to our space. My name is Christine Ishampepe, the Money Mechanic, and I help you fix your finances. I am on a mission to equip Africa's younger population with adequate financial literacy, advice, and strategy so they can journey to financial freedom and live life purposefully on their own terms and to the fullest because money is no more a barrier. I want you to live your best life. The Hot Money Talks podcast is a series of honest, open, and transparent money conversations that will guide you on your journey to financial freedom. Here on the Hot Money Talks podcast, we believe 100% that financial freedom is possible with the right set of knowledge, the right amount of time, and the right circle of people. Now, it seems like almost everyone is getting married towards the end of this year because the amount of Ashwebi groups that I am in, OMG. Anyways, I decided that on today's episode, we'll be talking about how to harmonize your wedding budget and your finances. I believe that this would be a very, very valid conversation for us to have with the amount of wedding bells that seem to be ringing at this time of the year. Now let's get right into it. Planning a wedding isn't easy, and in the Nigerian context, to be precise, the wedding is not just for you. It is for your parents and their friends and their extended family. Now, because of this pressure, however, a lot of couples miss it and get into debt, all in the name of wedding. Then comes the question: how can one have a wedding that is still memorable but does not require breaking the bank? So today I would like to share with us some helpful tips as you plan your wedding. You may be a bride to be or a groom to be who's listening to this podcast, or you may just be that single Pringle that is still shouting, "We go love, oh, God, when no." But this is very valuable knowledge to each and every one of us in whatever category we find ourselves. So the first tip is be open about your expectations. So as you plan your wedding, as the bride to be or the groom to be, what are your expectations? And you should know the expectations of your spouse and also know the expectations of both parents, right? From both sides, because everyone has their own individual thoughts about the wedding, right? Probably, the parents are thinking they want like 500 to 1,000 people to come, while you and your spouse are thinking, oh, we just want a really small wedding. Or, your parents are thinking of hiring a very large reception hall, and you are just like, oh, we just want like a really small garden wedding. So this is where, these conversations need to be had. Like, everyone should open up and say, this is what I'm expecting for the wedding, or this is what I really desire the wedding to look like or to be like. It is very important to talk with your partner about the things that are priorities to each of you and also to your families. Try and also get a sense of the nature of the support you'll be getting from the parents. Very, very, very important. Because sometimes your parents want a particular kind of wedding or a particular style of wedding, but yet they are not exactly ready to pay for it, right? So you need to be able to, ascertain, okay, this is what our parents want, but what are they also bringing to the table at this time? Now, a second tip is draft your guest list. Now, doing this at the onset of your planning will greatly affect other decisions such as your location, refreshments, and also invites. Now, you need to bear in mind that if your list is long, now so your expenses go long too. So you need to be very, very very, very careful about this. But like I said, doing this at the onset of planning will determine a whole lot, right? So you should be able to know, okay, this is our guest list. So we know that, okay, the hall we're getting, okay, can take this amount of people, or if we need to cut down on our guest list, and all of that. So draft your guest list on time. Now, the third tip is draw up a budget. Now, this budget will be a comprehensive list of what you'll be spending on, right? At this point, you need to ascertain what is a need, like what is crucial to the success of this wedding, what is non-negotiable, what can be removed or what can be reduced, what are priorities to you. This is very, very important. Okay, so for instance, for me, right, whenever I'm going to get married, I know that one of the non-negotiables for me is my photography and my videography. It's like a non-negotiable. That one, Omo, I must get the best of the best, right? My wedding dress, a non-negotiable. My ring, a non-negotiable. I'm not really so bothered about the cake, but you see some certain things, they are non-negotiables. You need to be able to know what is non-negotiable for you guys, right? And that would also determine what needs to go and what should stay. What are your priorities? What are your priorities? I've heard couples say, they'd rather have a small wedding and spend their money on having like a really lit honeymoon. Why? Because it is a priority to them, right? So what are your priorities? Now, the fourth tip is apportion responsibility. Now, this has to do with determining who is paying for what. Okay, and then this is important because you now have a clear knowledge concerning the financial commitments of your spouse, of your friends, and your family. This will enable you to tailor your budget appropriately. So I know that different, let's say, cultures, right, have their ways of like doing the wedding. They would say, okay, this one is for the bride's family, this one is for the groom's family. However your culture determines it, just make sure that there is a clear knowledge of everybody's financial commitment. Who is taking care of reception? Who is taking care of this part of it? Who is doing the cooking? Who is doing that? Everybody's financial commitment should be clearly ascertained. Now, the next tip is find a venue. It is also good to begin scouting early for a venue that you can genuinely afford and that will host your guests adequately. So to avoid last minute rush, that's why I said earlier to draft your guest list on time, because this is also going to determine the kind of venue that you will get for yourself, right? So you also need to start scouting for a venue early, because sometimes the venue you think you are eyeing, somebody else is also eyeing it. And then it's now become the battle of who will pay more to get the venue, right? So find a venue and find it on time. Then another tip is explore and research vendors. Now, why this is important is that you will get a chance to compare prices and also services, so you can decide on what you can afford or who you can afford comfortably, right? So if your wedding is going to be a wedding where you're going to work with a lot of vendors, there are some weddings where it will be the family that will cook. But if you want your wedding to be like, okay, your food is going to be taken care of by a particular vendor, you're contracting your food out, you're contracting this out, of course, you work with like photographers, videographers, probably ushers, and all of those things. When you start preparing early, you can actually sample, more than one vendor per service, so that you can compare prices and then cut your quote according to your material, not according to your size, guys. It is according to your material, because your size fit pass your material, and you understand what I mean. Your appetite may not be what you can afford. Okay, now another tip is manage cash flow. Now, this is where you are to ensure that you know how your money is coming in and how it is going out as well. So don't spend carelessly or outside your budget. Don't also make the mistake of spending excessively with the hopes that people will spare us money during reception. You see, there are people who have this mindset, right, that let them just spend, at least during reception people will spare you. Don't be deceived though. It might not happen the way you are expecting. I remember there was a wedding I shot, right? I was the photographer at the wedding, but then my mom was also like in charge of like the gifts and all of that. And I remember afterwards she was gisting us about it, like when they were opening the envelopes that people were coming to drop, and when they were trying to look at the money, that they sprayed. Oh, but it was 2020 naira, like this. People put 20 naira in an envelope and come and give as gifts, right? So imagine you went to go and get into debt because of your wedding, and then When ushers are counting your money, it's 20 naira, that fool, the envelopes and all of that. So please, make sure that you work according to your budget. Okay, don't assume that people are going to come and spray you money during reception. That's just risky. All right, another tip is pay attention to other events as well. So don't just focus on the D-Day, like the day that you forget to plan for other events like traditional wedding, bachelor or bachelorette party, engagement party, all of those things. These expenses are supposed to go into your budget as well. And this is important because we know ourselves as Nigerians, celebration the day much, you understand? There's engagement party, there's this one, there's that one. If you know you're going to be having all of these other events, ensure that you're also paying attention to them as well. They should go into the budget you are drawing up for the wedding. Then another tip is hire a planner if you can, and especially if you are terrible at planning. Now, good wedding planners can actually help you work within your budget while coordinating the entire event to ensure it goes seamlessly. Personally, I would say that if you can, and I believe you can if you plan for it, hire a wedding planner. Honestly, hire a wedding planner. It reduces even the stress on you who is getting married. Hire a wedding planner. Plan for it. Sometimes we just close our minds and say, wedding planner, I don't have money for wedding planner. No, don't look at it that way. Have you actually even tried to find one and find out how much it costs? Hiring a planner can actually be very helpful, if you want to really stick to your budget, because of course your wedding planner will work with the budget that you give him or her. Finally, the 10th tip. Think about your marriage. I said think about your marriage, not your wedding. Think about your marriage. The wedding is just an event which will end. And when the celebration is done, both of you will be left with each other to face the reality of marriage. As you plan your wedding, keep your financial goals and responsibilities at the forefront of your planning. Don't borrow to do a wedding when you have personal responsibilities that are ahead of you. You will have children to cater for in the nearest future. And you also have retirement to plan for. Don't forget the marriage. Don't forget the marriage. As you plan for your wedding, don't forget the marriage. I want to reiterate something again that sums up everything I have said today. When it comes to planning your wedding, cut your coats according to your material. Very, very important. Now, it is nice to have a wedding that is the talk of the town, but it should never be at the expense of your current reality and your peace of mind. If small and simple is what you can really afford, then I suggest that you do it. Well, I hope this has been helpful. And I wish everyone who's getting married in the next couple of weeks and months, I wish you the best and a happy married life, most importantly. All right. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you found value today, please share the link to this episode with your circle. Remember that new episodes of the Hot Money Talks podcast drop every Saturday, and you can listen to them on your favorite podcast platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Do well to follow the show on either of these platforms so that you are notified whenever an episode is released. Now, recommendations are powerful, so please tell your friends and your family about this podcast so we can go on this journey to financial freedom together. To connect with me on other platforms, do well to follow The Money Mechanic at The Money Mechanic page on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. I hope most importantly that you will take action on your finances today. Sending you love, light, and a sprinkle of money in between.